So what are some of the types of central sensitization? Well, here are some. Number one, anxiety. Anxiety. Anxiety is a form of central sensitization. And along with anxiety, we have depression. These are all hyperexcitatory conditions. CRPS, complex regional pain syndrome, or RSD. Chronic pain just in general. Patients who have chronic pain, every single patient who has chronic pain has some element of central sensitization. It is impossible not to, because chronic pain sucks, and you remember that it sucks, and you know that it sucks. And your brain's going to say the same thing, gosh, this sucks, and it's going to remember that. And of course the patient's going to change. There's no doubt about it. So every patient, now it might be 1%, it might be 10%, it might be 100%, but every patient with chronic pain has some element of central sensitization. It's impossible not to. To say that they don't would be to imply that the brain simply has not noticed that the patient's in chronic pain, which is obviously an impossible event. Fibromyalgia. Fibromyalgia is a central sensitization condition. It's a central disease. This is something that also is, has been for a while, but I think people are finally evolving to understand where fibro is coming from. But a lot of times, we'll still hear it that people think fibro is a peripheral disease. Fibro is not. It's a central disease with peripheral manifestations. Okay? So you can have fibro with arthritis. You can have fibro with a bad back. You can have fibro with this, with that, with this. But fibromyalgia is chronic, widespread neuropathic pain in all four quadrants of the body, hallmarked by central sensitization, central hyperamplification. Okay, so it is a central pain disorder. So I just hope you guys take that away from this. Headaches can also be, again, there's so many causes of headaches. We're not going to get into every cause of headache because, as you know, that's a lecture in and of itself. But headaches also can be the severity of the headaches, the perception of the headaches, can be centrally mediated. Opiate-induced hyperalgesia. I'm sure you guys have been to a few lectures this week, and you've heard this term many times. I'm sure many of you already know this term. But opiate-induced hyperalgesia is a central nervous system hyperalgesic effect. Phantom limb pain, and finally PTSD. So PTSD, this is something that's, that I've been working on and studying for many years. We were the first to describe the mechanism of PTSD as it relates to stellate ganglion blocks about 12 years ago. And during those studies, again, obviously it goes without saying that PTSD is a brain issue, right? It's emotional issue. But when we look at the mechanisms of action, PTSD is not much different than what you would find with severe anxiety, severe depression, and even severe things like severe complex regional pain syndrome without the peripheral manifestations of those diseases. So here's some of the neurophysiology of central sensitization. And this kind of simplistically tells you what's happening. So in number A, or letter A, we have the nociceptive transmission. Okay, the patient is being actively injured, let's say, and they're feeling it. Those signals are now being transmitted through the spinal cord, throughout the central nervous system, and the brain is processing it, it's remembering it. Okay? In the acute phase, what is happening is those signals continue to sort of be transmitted to the central nervous system. They're not stopping for whatever reason. Maybe they're not stopping because the patient is continuing to be injured. Maybe they're not stopping because this switch, like I said, has been turned into the on position. In the late phase, we're now starting to see some real sort of neurophysiological changes. We're seeing various neurotransmitters being activated and some that are not being activated. And then the late phase, after the late phase, we see disinhibition. So disinhibition means the lack of inhibition. And inhibition is exactly what we need. After the injury is done, there should be no signal that's being transmitted, right? That signal, everything should have been resolved, right? If you clap your hands, it hurts for that split second, right? If you clap really hard. And then once the clapping is done, pain sort of dissipates and everything's fine again, right? It takes maybe a couple seconds. But with disinhibition, that pain persists. A really good case would be, again, if you take fibromyalgia and you do your fibromyalgia tender point examination. How many have done that? How many have done that tender point examination? Okay, a decent amount, like almost half. So when you push, right, and you're not pushing very hard, but I'm sure some of you have seen those patients say, Doc, for the next couple days, man, I was laid up. It really hurt. You weren't doing anything. There's no injury that was caused, but the brain perceived it as an injury because it's already become sensitized. And there was that disinhibition, and so that pain persisted.